Hello, chismosas y chismosos, and welcome back to Bay Area Housewife of True Crime, where I like to tell the stories of the real cucuys and lloronas of the world. I'm Audrey, a paralegal turned stay-at-home mom that loves true crime. The cases I cover are wild, topics may be triggering, listener and viewer discretion is strongly advised. The people mentioned are innocent until proven guilty in court. With all that being said, grab your hot Cheetos and let's get started on today's case. Today's episode is titled Stupid People Doing Stupid Things Part 2, a series I've created where I gather little big cases like these that aren't necessarily a full episode, but a lovely tidbit. Not a lot, baby girl, just a little bit. I'd like to sprinkle these here and there as I collect my information. First on the list of stupid people doing stupid things is Pastor Fred Diaz. A May 27, 1983 Miami Herald article provided the following information. 31-year-old Frances Rodriguez Baez of Riverside, California had filed a $3 million lawsuit against Pastor Fred Diaz of the La Sierra Spanish Seventh-day Adventist Church. On October 10, 1982, Pastor Fred delivered a sermon where he alleged that she was, and I quote, disloyal to her husband, unquote. Just one sermon was all it took for Frances to suffer medical, psychological, financial, and reputation issues. Pastor Fred Diaz titled his sermon The Home Under Attack, where he talked about a woman who was not a proper wife, disloyal to her husband, and put certain work before her family, was not following God's teaching, and therefore not a good standing member of the SDA Church. Frances was married for 10 years, but since the sermon in question had gotten divorced. Frances confided in her church pastor about a month prior to the sermon about her marital woes. Fred had since relocated to the Santa Ana Spanish SDA Church and said in a deposition that he barely knew Frances. He barely knew her, and the woman he was talking about in the sermon was somebody else. The sermon talked about how societal trends were tearing down the foundation or traditional family of God. As an example, he spoke about a marriage that was in trouble because the wife wanted to be a police officer, despite the objections of her Mexican macho of a husband who wanted his wife to be a stay-at-home mom. Frances worked for the Riverside Police Department. Before the days of online sermons, people would record them on a cassette tape, and the SDA Church wasn't going to fall behind on these technological advances. They recorded the sermons. And although Frances was not present for the sermon, gossip spread like wildfire. And she was able to hear the exact words later on tape. The lawsuit settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. Second on today's list of stupid people doing stupid things is Columbia Seventh-day Adventist Academy. A June 1st, 1988 and a June 2nd, 1988 articles from the Oregonian provided the following information. Kathy McConnell was expecting her first baby in September of 1988. She was also a senior in high school at her private Columbia Seventh-day Adventist Academy, an expensive, very conservative church who do not see women and men as equals. I say this because it was not until 1985 that they allowed women ordained as pastors, which seems a little counterintuitive as a gender assigned woman. Ellen G. White was one of the founders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. She claimed to have visions from God. And if someone tells me today that they had visions from God, I would question their state of mind. Principal Rick Stearns notified Jackie's parents, Daryl and Viola McConnell, that the 4-month pregnant Jackie would not be able to walk at her anticipated high school graduation. Rick told them that she would be able to obtain her diploma, but not during that year's commencement ceremony. She was not allowed to attend any of the graduating ceremony events. Rightfully so, the McConnells filed a lawsuit with the Clark County Superior Court against Columbia SDA Academy and the powers that it be, including the Academy's Board of Directors, the Oregon Conference of the SDA Church, Don Jacobson, President of the Oregon SDA Conference, Cecil Roy, the Superintendent of Education of the Oregon SDA Conference, for breach of contract and sex discrimination in denying Jackie McConnell's right to attend class, participate in school activities, class activities, and participate in graduation ceremonies. And not that it's any of our business or the school's business, but the father of the unborn baby was not a student at Columbia Adventist Academy. 36 fellow seniors and Jackie were 4-year students. These types of academics receive a 4-year student a special kind of diploma for having attended that academy since freshman year. Third and last on today's episode of Stupid People Doing Stupid Things is Walter McGill. A man named Walter McGill spent 30 days at the San Bernardino County Central Detention Center for contempt in court. You see, Mr. Walter had a 6-year legal battle with the Seventh-day Adventist Church. He was originally a pastor from Tennessee, but had been recently holding church service at his very own Creation Seventh-day Adventist Church, a new denomination he made up entirely of his own. He wouldn't tell the press where these super secret worship services were, but only that it was in the Inland Empire area in Southern California. His associate pastor, Lucan Cartier, served 10 days beside him. Walter told the press, and I quote, "We truly have what could be called a home church, an underground church." The Worldwide Seventh-day Adventist Church filed a lawsuit against him for using their name. Walter was 66 years old at the time and bragged about how the liquid diet he'd been on since he was jailed on July 13, 2012, went from 170 to 153 pounds. Time in the tin had been rough for Walter. He got beat up for refusing to clean the bathroom on the Sabbath, which is the SDA's day of rest, from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. But he was out in 30 days. We've reached the end of today's episode of Bay Area Housewife of True Crime, Stupid People Doing Stupid Things, Part 2. As always, I respect and accept your opinions. If you'd like a copy of my notes or have any case suggestions, comments, hit me up at yayareahousewife@gmail.com. I'll see you chismosas y chismosos in the next. Don't forget your hot Cheetos. Adios.